tuned into Bent Air.
That legislation gives us hope that we will someday soon be equal.
Wait a minute. Kylie Minogue is from Australia.
I know, you would think. I say, what the devil is all the fuss about? I don't get it. What's in there? Bing bong! Hello!
1976, when I made this public, I went and knocked on the neighbours' doors in rural Tasmania, and they were fantastic about it.
This is your weekly LGBTIQ community radio show.
And I am here today because I am gay, and I'm tired of hiding.
The Hobart City Council apologises for prohibiting the gay law reform stall at Salamaga Market in 1988.
Did you know that dolphins are just gay sharks?
I was sure from at the age of about 4 or 5, I should be a girl. I'm not supposed to be a boy, wanting to play girls' games and play with the girls at school.
The boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her.
I wanna be her. Yes, I do.
On Edge Radio 99.3 FM.
Be kind to one another.
Good morning, Matt.
Hi.
Matt's arrived very discombobulated.
No, I'm fine. I've been here for hours and I'm well prepared. I'm in a good mood and all that. How about you?
Yeah, same.
Great.
Yeah.
Beautiful weather outside too. Sunny. No.
Well, no, I am really hoping it's going to rain because we really need it.
We do, don't we?
Friend of mine,
their dam is empty and we're doing rain rituals.
Yep.
Bring it.
I'm putting, posts up on Facebook that involve swearing and pictures of dry dams. Yes.
Good luck.
But you're listening to, of course, Bent Air. As our intro says, it's the only lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and intersex issues show. We love bringing you news, issues, music by fabulous queer artists. And we'd love you to get involved as well if you wanted to. You can get in contact with us on our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Bent Air Radio. We're looking for new presenters or just people who would like to come in and talk about an issue, promote a queer-affiliated event, anything like that.
We're even looking for some volunteers for some behind-the-scenes work as well. So
yes, we are.
If you don't think you can quite bring your face to this microphone, and the microphone's a pretty nice place to be, but it is a bit of a challenge at first, I guess. But there's certainly a lot of things behind the scenes about researching recent news or getting us up to date with everything that's going on. So yeah, come along and join us.
Indeed. We work for TasCard, myself and Matt. That's the Tasmanian Council of AIDS, Hepatitis and Related Diseases, which is why we also bring you a lot of health info when it comes up. That's queer affiliated as well, or in some way LGBTIQ related. And we'll be doing some of that during the show. Of course, since our last show, which Matt did last week, sadly, Prince died.
What is going on?
Well, I was reading a story about this where they were saying if it seems suddenly there's a lot of celebrities dying,
yeah.
It's not. It's normal. It's just the nature of social media and instant communications and all that. They're not actually dying more than they usually do.
Okay. Well, I was also reading something that we might be shifting into a generation where artists that we followed became more of a thing, roughly a generation ago.
Yeah, and it has to be said for some of those recent deaths, they are of an age of where baby boomer generation, the older section of it, starting to get to that age where they,
paying attention, collecting the albums, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, there's 60s, 70s. Oh, it's too scary. Exactly.
But yeah, Prince was much beloved as well, so I thought I'd play a couple of songs by him today.
What are you playing?
Well, the first one I'm going to play now is Controversy.
Oh, okay.
Which is it's possibly my favourite Prince song. It explores content and subjects like faith and sexuality and celebrity, if you like, and it's got a great funky beat. So yeah, I thought I'd put this one on. And I'm going to play another one a bit later, but I noticed this morning that there seems, and this is rumours by the National Enquirer, a totally legitimate and credible source, no doubt, that they're saying that Prince may have actually died of an age-related illness. And there was stuff, this is all pretty scurrilous, and I can't be sure it's true at this point. But unfortunately, as we've often talked about before, when when media, especially really lousy media like the National Enquirer, report on celebrity and the subject of HIV or AIDS, it's often done in a really stigmatising and HIV shaming way, which is always disappointing to see. It's nobody's business really if Prince happened to die due to related to a virus or anything else, but inevitably it becomes, when it's media like this, it becomes really scandalous and sensationalist, and that's always disappointing to see.
What is media without scandal or sensationalism? It's
apparently nothing these days.
Yeah.
What happened to journalism? But anyway, I'll play a song later as well. But it's just I raised that because Prince was one of the first sort of major stars to actually mention HIV/AIDS in a song back in the 80s. Yes,
what was the reference?
The reference was a big disease with a little name. Yeah. And I'll be playing that song later as well. Okay. For Prince fans, rather, you'll know which one I mean. But for now, we're going to do Controversy because I feel like having a bit of funk in our life in the morning.
Yay. That
was Prince with Controversy. Was he gay? Was he straight? Does he believe in God? Does he believe in him? He's gone now. That's not very cheerful, is it?
A lot of controversies, isn't there?
Controversy, yeah. Nevertheless, he courted controversy for most of his career, but
It was controversial when he became the nameless pop star.
Yes, the symbol formerly known as, And I should add, he did have a band, and that was Prince and the Revolution, and they were the ones that did that song. They were a great band, and supplied the world with really good musicians, and like Sheena E and that sort of thing. Sheila E, I mean. I was getting confused with Sheena Easton, who he also worked with.
Wow.
Anyway, let's just move on.
You are a repository for amazing amounts of music knowledge, Tracy. Where does it come from?
It comes from being a little bit older than you, Matt, and having grown up in
that much. You pay attention the right way.
Maybe it is, yeah. Maybe it's just that. You're listening to Bent Air on Edge Radio 99.3 FM. If you're not a subscriber to Edge Radio, you should be, because it's actually quite cheap and affordable, and it gets you lots of things. It gets you in the running for subscriber-only prizes throughout the year. You get the first sort of word on any events that Edge are doing and all that sort of stuff, and it's just a great thing to do because Edge is a community radio station and it needs the support of its listeners wherever possible. Consider, if you're not already, becoming an Edge subscriber. You should. Now...
So, Tracy, you've been busy recently?
Yeah, so I was away last week.
Where did you go?
I was at the National Gay Men's HIV Health Promotion Conference.
What did you wear?
I wore a waistcoat and a T-shirt and jeans.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay, so...
And, sometimes it was barely noticeable that I wasn't a gay man.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. So, how many people? Hundreds of people?
There would have been. It wasn't a massive conference. I reckon there was probably 100, 150, something like that.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And whereabouts in Sydney?
This was the best part in some ways. It was at Manly in Sydney.
Oh,
and
that's brilliant.
It was at a hotel that's like directly across from the beach.
Wow.
And I'd forgotten we were going to Manly, and I didn't know where the hotel was. So as soon as we arrived, I was actually scurried around the corner to buy a cheap pair of shorts so I could go swimming.
Gosh. So did you actually go to any of the presentations in the conference, or did you just hang out on the beach?
Well, it was tempting, but no, I actually did go to lots of stuff at the conference. There was networking before the actual conference started the day before. There was training workshops the day after, so I did the lot.
Oh, okay. But, anything outstanding? Any trends in news? Or?
Look, I mean, this is something I tweeted as well. The new CEO of the Australian Federation of AIDS Organisations, who's Daryl O'Connell, did the sort of key opening address and was talking particularly about, he talked about stigma around HIV, but basically that for a while there's been some people that are pointing to slowly rising rates of HIV notifications again to particularly gay men's complacency. Of course, we always like to put the blame somewhere and point the finger at a particular group who are already vulnerable, but he was saying that basically the response to PrEP soon hopefully becoming available, but the clinical trials show that that's just not true. Basically, gay men have they've never. It's a long time since they've seen such a massive response to another tool in the HIV prevention toolbox, if you like, and that gay men in particular are, falling over themselves. They can't keep up. The clinical trials have been expanded, and they're full again because there's too many people that want to go on them.
So this is PrEP specific?
Specifically for PrEP, and I should say PrEP stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis. It's basically an antiretroviral medication that HIV-negative people can take, which helps prevent them actually becoming infected by HIV if they are exposed to it. It's not 100% safety method, but it does go a long way to preventing somebody actually acquiring HIV.
Especially if you put PrEP in combination with something we're calling TASP these days, which is treatment as prevention.
At the moment, the most reliable weapon we've got for HIV is that HIV positive people be on treatment and have an undetectable viral load. That's still the most safe way of them not transmitting it to anyone else, even including condoms. Of course, condoms protect you from everything else, so you should still always use condoms.
So he was saying that there's a lot of gay men responding to the emergent...
And it actually shows, in his words, it puts the lie... It puts to bed the lie of gay men's complacency, because they're not complacent. As soon as something comes along that they recognise is going to really help them stay safe and keep others safe, they're putting their hand up everywhere. So that's not the act of a complacent community.
No, it isn't. I mean, it doesn't mean that we don't find ourselves in risky situations, nevertheless, and you have to really take care of yourself at those times. And I mean, it's interesting. It is important, I think, to keep being informed for us, especially in our work. Because another argument that I was reading recently was that PrEP might not be absolutely most suitable for highly sexually active gay men. In that one guy was quoted as saying he wants to still consider all the other options because he was HIV negative, and so it seemed anathema to be seeking to take HIV medication all the time, even though he's HIV negative. He didn't want to subject himself to a life full of taking PrEP.
Absolutely, and to be honest, I don't think at this point clinicians or anyone else would be recommending that you took it for the rest of your life. It's particularly high risk groups, and those high risk groups do include basically gay guys or men who have sex with men who have more than one casual partner, and for any men who have sex with men who may sometimes have sex without a condom. Yep. And that's the reality. Sometimes that happens, and particularly if you're the partner of an HIV positive person, that could also be another one. There's a few high, groups that for one reason or another may be considered at a higher risk or higher vulnerability of HIV acquisition. But for quite a lot of people out there, if they talk to their doctor, they'd probably go, "Oh no, you don't need to be on PrEP. Just do your best to stay safe." If you are concerned, of course, that you've been exposed to HIV, we also have PEP, which is post-exposure prophylaxis,
which is probably much more.
Yeah, and that's a campaign that Tascard's really pushing at the moment. Get PEP. There's a website. We'll put the link up to it on our Bentair Facebook page. But of course, PEP is also an antiretroviral HIV medication, and if you do experience an exposure event, or potentially, as long as you get PEP within 72 hours, the sooner the better, but it has to be within 72 hours, it can also prevent the virus from actually, from your body seroconverting with the virus. It'll prevent it from taking hold and replicating. So we've got an increasing, bunch of tools in our toolbox when it comes to HIV prevention, and particularly it is around treatment as prevention. So,
and it's up to us to spread the word as well. One of the pieces of research that came out of, I think it was the CSRH of UNSW a couple of years ago, was that in Tasmania, up to 50% of gay men had never heard of PrEP. Yeah. And in my experience, as a gay man on the streets, citizen of Hobart, anecdotally, everybody knows about PrEP these days. So it's thanks to these things like these campaigns and advertising about sexual health services and people paying attention and spreading the word, that this information gets around. So
absolutely, that's how we do it, and that's how we keep ourselves and each other safe.
Tracy, you better play a song, but after that I'm going to ask you about PRAF because it annoyed me.
PRAF?
Yeah, I'll remind you. It's all right.
All right, cool. All right, we'll do that. Well, this is a very short song. We're sticking with dead fabulous people now. I'm playing a David Bowie song.
Okay.
This is my weekly David Bowie treat. But this is a very short song. It's only 1 minute 52.
Okay, well, we'll need to pay attention.
You will. Well, particularly because, I mean, I'm not saying in general. The song's kind of a cheeky song about someone who's obviously had a bit of a mental health episode and is a little bit, a little bit sheepish. But there's a line in it towards the end of the song that's just for you, Matt.
Oh, okay. I'm paying attention.
This is David Bowie, Breaking Glass. You're listening to Bent Air. There we go. I told you it was a short song. Oh. And you are a wonderful person.
And I do have problems, especially now that you point them out to me. Bloody hell. What are we talking about?
We are listening. Well, you're listening, you fabulous listeners, to Bent Air on Edge Radio 99.3 FM. I was talking about. Well, I didn't really say anything about the conference. Although we did. We launched into stuff about stigma and PrEP.
Yes. Before I ask you about PRAF, what was the best thing that happened to you in the conference? So long as you can describe it in a public forum.
Best thing, it was actually meeting face to face. One I'd met before, but some fabulous trans men that are doing amazing work in HIV prevention around the country. Some in quite remote and regional settings, and also working for the recognition and inclusion of trans men in conversations about health matters like the response to HIV and that sort of stuff as well. And that was my best thing, I reckon. That and meeting a couple of the new breed of HIV activists that are also working.
What do you mean by new breed? How would you describe that?
Well, yeah, we're sort of past that wave that when HIV first came around and into the 90s with ACT UP and pushing for access to medication stuff, because of the wheels turning slowly on access to PrEP. There's been a couple of sort of activist groups formed. One is the Institute of Many, which is the Facebook HIV positive people's group. It's a private group. If you're HIV positive, you can join. You're eligible. You just get in contact with them, and that's got over 1,000 members now around Australia and is enormously useful for getting information and support from each other and being able to talk through issues. But there's another group, and their name has just gone out of my head, who have been working out of Melbourne and have been doing a lot of activist work around access to PrEP and sort of clamouring to make that happen faster. And they've had some success. Things do finally seem to be moving. They think PrEP will be approved by the TGA, the Therapeutic Goods Association, probably around June this year, and it will hopefully be available on PBS as of next year. You can get the generic version of it online through personal importation, which is legal. You still need an Australian prescription, but then you can get it online with that prescription.
Can you get it from most GPs, a prescription, I mean?
It depends on the GP's knowledge. They don't need to have the usual S100 prescriber status. So it's just that the reason it hasn't been approved is because the drug is an it's an HIV treatment, so it is available via prescription already for people with HIV. But if you're getting it to prevent HIV infection, that's not what it's listed for, which is why at the moment it's only available through clinical trials, or as I said, online. But hopefully that will change soon, and it's activists that are in part responsible for that, and they've been agitating for its approval. So tell me about PrAF.
Oh, that was just when I was looking through the conference program, and a presentation by somebody that had obviously been talking quite in depth about PrEP, which you've just been talking about, and PEP, which you mentioned before, and also TASP, another one of many acronyms that we're using, and TASP was treatment as prevention in terms of getting your viral load to undetectable so that there's nothing to transmit. But there was another acronym on the agenda for that discussion, which was new for me, and I looked it up, and it made me feel a bit yucky. It was PRAF, and PRAF stands for Personal Risk Assessment Framework.
Oh, yes, that is vaguely familiar. All right.
It seemed that it was a new approach for gay men to add to their checklist of ways in which I'm making sure I don't contract HIV. Am I on PrEP? Do I know where I can get PEP? Am I making sure that the other party, if they're HIV positive, is using TASP? And at the end of the day, this is my PRAF. I just felt like it was all a little bit too much.
Yes, I can understand that.
But it's this stigma thing. I might need your help to talk about this because I sometimes get a bit tongue-tied. But it's so easy to let the discussion about gay sex and HIV to fall into the gutter and to shame people.
Oh, absolutely.
Slut shaming, if I'm allowed to use that word on this station.
And that's the term that's been used to shame people who are wanting to go on PrEP or are on PrEP, because, like, you know, Truvada whore is another term that has actually been reappropriated back by activists and going, yeah, damn right, I'm a Truvada whore. Truvada is the name of the medication that is used for PrEP. But yeah, it's like, oh, well, that just means you want to be a slut and, you know, and all that sort of stuff. And it's actually no, it's because I care about myself. I'm proud of who I am. I don't, you know, I don't feel ashamed of my sexual practices or, you know, who and how I love. And I'm going to look after myself and be sensible.
That's true. That's fair enough. But it is also the case that some of the ways that some of the places that you can end up when you're exploring with your sexuality in those forums, you can't take the onus completely on yourself all the time, because you might be meeting with people that you've never met. You might be using drugs. In any case, you might be able to say that you're taking care of yourself, but there's nothing you can say about the other person. And that was my little issue with PRAF. Personal risk assessment instantly puts me in a category of sordidness, of dark, shameful activity. I'd rather see an acronym that was somehow representing the idea that we should care for each other a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. I see what you mean.
And I'm not quite sure. I have to think about that more. I'll come up with it and we'll...
unfortunately, that is more of the mantra of the bureaucracy and politics these days, as well as that personal responsibility. It's like, yes, you might be really poor and have come from a generational welfare and have been abused as a child, but it's still your personal responsibility if you decide to break the law and take drugs.
Yeah, that's right. And it's up to you to make your $160 a week, feed your family.
Yeah, it's your personal responsibility to do that.
Yeah,
you know. So and it's your personal responsibility to pull yourself out of poverty. Despite the fact that, you know, you were, as an LGBTI kid, so bullied at school that you couldn't continue, you know. That's
right, just get an education. Come on, step up to the...
All that's certainly the thing I dislike about the way personal responsibility is is being used as a sort of a shaming, blaming thing.
And it comes back to that thing that for me is the most important message that I'm trying to put my tongue to, I guess, that through the work that we do, is that promoting this culture of getting tested, of communicating about your sexual history, about your most recent tests, about your status and all the STIs. If we can encourage each other more and more to get tested and know your statuses, I think that's even better than just looking after yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it's a conversation that we need to be having. And I guess, I can see why they came up with the PRAF thing. I agree with you. I think perhaps it could have been better. There has to be a level of people taking charge of their own health and engaging with their own health. But that's different to having to take personal responsibility and then rely on everyone else to do the same.
And I think it's really important that we take care in how we frame these things up, because on that list it did look like we've given you PrEP, we've given you PEP, we're suggesting TASP, and if all else fails, it's your fault. Right. Anyway, I've got an off button, Trace. You should learn to push it.
We will go to another song on that note. I'm hoping this isn't one you played last week. It's a Ricky Martin song that was left on there. You didn't?
No, I didn't quite get there.
Excellent. We'll play it now. It's called, fabulously, we do occasionally do this, we play a song in a language that's not English, which is which is something I love to do. So the song is called, and sorry about pronunciation, Disparo al Corazon.
Yay, bring it.
Which means heart shot, literally, but probably shot to the heart or...
Is it Spanish?
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. And it's by a gay Spanish guy.
Oh, now you're talking.
You're listening to Bent Air. That was Ricky Martin.
It's lovely.
Disparo al Corazon. Yeah, which is heart shot. Shot to the heart. The video, we put the videos of all the music that we play on Bent Air up on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Bent Air Radio. And that video looks at marriage equality, which is a subject oft discussed on this show.
Yes. Another one to discuss carefully.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, the push for marriage equality is still continuing. They're still talking plebiscite at this point, which is a real concern for lots of us in the LGBTIQ community, just in terms of it opening up the potential of a whole lot of hate speech and homophobic stuff and all that. When people get on their high horse, I mean that stuff happens anyway, but a plebiscite kind of will.
Do you think it will make it worse?
Yes, definitely. I mean, just even the talk around it has already made it worse. Remembering, of course, that the Australian Christian lobby wanting to have an exemption from the Anti-Discrimination Act during the plebiscite because they feel that their anti-marriage equality stance, they won't be able to express it in its rich fullness without in the way that they wish to. We want to be able to argue this and by being discriminatory, and the law is preventing us. Speaking of law, actually, and I put a story up on our Facebook page yesterday. Which was from the US, from Mississippi. Mississippi doctors can refuse to treat LGBT patients because of the change that Mississippi has recently made to its law based on, religious beliefs or, that sort of stuff. And I was commenting on we're very lucky in Australia that we have anti-discrimination legislation because of that, this sort of abomination isn't possible. Of course, there's all sorts of weird things happening in the US in a few states at the moment. North Carolina have introduced laws that you can only use a public toilet that is based on your biological sex or the sex you were assigned at birth.
That's a new law?
Yeah, it's a new law. And it's, it was directly attacking the rights of transgender people in terms of their use of toilets. And hilariously, the reasons that people say this is a good thing is because, otherwise, straight men, who are perverts would put frocks on and pretend to be transgender women and go and harass women in public toilets.
Oh gosh, I'm just so glad that
Yeah, because that means, where it's going to be so much safer for a trans woman to use a men's toilet, isn't it? Yeah.
Unbelievable. So does this mean in Mississippi that your doctor can say to you, look, my God doesn't want me to treat you?
Yeah, it does.
And you can die.
Yeah.
Because my God says you can.
Yeah, I mean, I am sure there will be heaps of doctors that reject this and wouldn't do it anyway, including doctors who are people of faith. But basically, the law, they've changed the law in Mississippi to say that yes, they can, and so unfortunately, there will be some who do.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. It's particularly in the medical profession, kind of goes against a few other oaths and stuff that they commit to, I think.
Yeah, I thought you were supposed to step in and save somebody despite all those boundaries. At
least do no harm. Indeed.
Goodness me.
Well,
so
what should we do? Should we go to song? Should I play Q&N? What's your preference?
Why don't we hear a song and then hear Q&N? And then we better talk about some events coming up in Hobart.
Yes.
But we'll do that after.
We'll do that afterwards. Okay, I'll play this song, Jennifer Hudson, I Still Love You. And then we'll go to Q&N.
Lovely.
Made in Melbourne, for Australia and the world, this is the Joy 94.9 GLBTIQ News Roundup, a weekly update of what's been happening in the gay, lesbian, bisexual, trans and intersex communities.
Hello and welcome to QNN. I'm Adam Samuel.
And I'm Alistair Kingston. There's big news for LGBT Victorians in the upcoming state budget, with Premier Dan Andrews set to commit $15 million to build Australia's first Pride Centre, a one-stop shop for LGBT health and services. The centre, to be based in Melbourne's CBD, will offer medical services staffed by doctors trained in LGBTI-specific issues, free to anyone with a Medicare card. The budget's also set to contain $6.4 million in funding for gender dysphoria services to support Victoria's transgender and gender-diverse community. Mr Andrews says in establishing the centre, Victoria is doing what every other state and the Commonwealth should be doing.
The final report of an 8-year study of HIV in Australia has been handed down, and it's found things are quite different now to back in 2007. The Kirby Institute study found HIV-positive men are now more likely to disclose their status, reduce the number of sexual partners they come into contact with, and use condoms during sex. Research associate Ian Down says there's also been a massive shift understanding about HIV treatment, as back in 2007 men were quite reluctant to begin early treatment amid fears of side effects. He says now, though, improved outcomes have been demonstrated when people start treatment immediately following diagnosis, bringing individual health benefits as well as a reduced risk of transmission.
A new Anzac Day tradition has started, the laying of rainbow wreaths to acknowledge the service and sacrifice of LGBT servicemen and women. Rainbow wreaths were laid around the country, largely thanks to the efforts of Stuart Martin, the Victorian coordinator for the Defence Gay and Lesbian Information Service. Mr Martin says the laying of the wreaths is about righting a wrong for all those people who served silently, and saying LGBT veterans can finally stand up, be visible and play their part in Anzac Day. Gays and lesbians were able to openly serve in the Australian Defence Force from 1992. However, the ban on transgender service people was only lifted in 2012.
A Eurovision Song Contest entrant has been the victim of a homophobic attack at the hands of police in a Moscow airport. Hovi Star, Israel's entrant in this year's competition, says passport control officers and police ripped up his passport. The singer says people in Moscow could have a problem with him as he's gay and wears makeup. Ironically, the singer's Eurovision song Made of Stars talks about equality and how everyone is the same. Another irony, Russia, which slammed Eurovision following Conchita Wurst's win, is a favourite to win this year's competition.
US President Barack Obama has revealed his daughters helped him become a supporter of same-sex marriage and understand why endorsing civil unions wasn't the same as endorsing marriage equality. The president said he initially didn't think the label for same-sex couple really mattered, as long as they had the same rights as heterosexuals. However, Obama says he came to understand it wasn't simply about legal rights but a sense of stigma, and that if you're calling it something different, it means less in the eyes of society. It comes as Britain issued a travel warning for LGBT travellers intending to visit the US states of North Carolina and Mississippi, which recently passed discriminatory laws.
And briefly now, doctors in England have expressed huge concern that super gonorrhea, which is resistant to antibiotics, has widely spread among English gay men.
Hong Kong has been shortlisted to host the 2022 Gay Games.
And the British Army's Special Air Service has recruited its first openly gay soldier to the Corps of Crack Commandos in its 75-year history.
And now with this week's QNN Sport, here's Tanya Lewis.
Team Sydney will soon be hosting a conference to promote inclusivity and help wipe out anti-gay attitudes in sport. The Change the Game one-day event will aim to manage homophobia and transphobia in competition by building on the work done by the Out in the Field survey. The conference takes place on May 7 at York Street in Sydney. Last week, the National Basketball League said they hadn't made a decision on whether they'd be pulling out of next year's All-Star game in Carolina, but now the league's boss says the game will definitely be moved if the state doesn't change its anti-LGBT law. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver says the game must be played in an appropriate environment and that the league is currently in constructive talks with North Carolina officials about the HB2 bill. The Charlotte Hornets are set to host Miami in Game 3 of the NBA playoffs in 2017, but Silver says that game's status has also created a moral dilemma.
Thanks, Tanya, and that's what's making LGBT headlines for another week. I'm Adam Samuel.
And I'm Alistair Kingston.
Thanks to the team at QNN. That was the Joy 94.9 GLBTIQ News Roundup. To hear this update again, you can subscribe to the QNN podcast, available at joy.org.au/QNN. Or you can follow QNN on Twitter, @QNN Australia. @QNN Australia.
And that was Sign of the Times with Prince. And apologies if it was down a little low. They've just had a bit of a problem with that recording, and I couldn't actually turn it up any higher. So you might have had to strain. And of course, it happened to be a quiet song too. But yeah, that was a song that we talked about playing a couple of Prince songs earlier in the show. You're listening to Bent Air on Edge Radio 99.3, by the way, 99.3 FM, with Tracy and Matt. Yeah, that was the song that that came out in the 80s, and he was probably the first sort of major musical star to reference HIV in a song in terms of talking about a big disease with a little name. And we also were talking that there seems to be some reporting in mainstream media this morning potentially about HIV or AIDS, as they're calling it, which it may have been. It may have been an AIDS-defining illness, I guess, but we just don't know. It might all be utter tosh as well. So,
in any case,
but the way that it's being reported, that certainly I find troublesome, and that it does tend to be quite stigmatising around HIV, which is always has an impact on people living with HIV, and that tends to do a lot of stereotyping and a lot of misinformation. I'm not particularly concerned with the causes of Prince's death and the situation he was in. If what they're saying, I guess, is true, is that he's someone who was HIV positive but made the decision to not go on treatment, then that's a legitimate choice by people as well. We would always advise people, and certainly all the research is showing that if you are HIV positive, the sooner you get on to treatment, then the better health outcome for you, especially in the long term. But it's nevertheless, it's a decision that each person is able to make for themselves.
And just a call out there to any budding young journalists: what's your language?
Yeah.
What's your language? I just googled something before, and what the return was the front page of a rag in America: AIDS killed Prince! !
Yeah, it's just really unpleasant,
just
isn't it?
Don't do that.
Exactly. And before Prince, we were listening to the Q&N from our friends at Joy 94.9, putting together the usual rundown of stuff happening in the news. The homophobic attack on the Israeli entrant to Eurovision is a bit of a worry. And Russia is, for those who like to follow Eurovision, and apparently a lot of Australians do.
I do, hey.
Yeah, so do I. It's going to be very interesting if Russia, as the favourite, in terms of does actually win, because that will mean the biggest influx of gay people ever, into Russia next year when it's held. And how exactly are they going to manage that?
Yeah, it will be interesting to watch.
Are we going to be seeing a boycott? Are they going to say we won't let any gay entrants in? Because that would be pretty well everyone. But anyway, yeah, it wouldn't be interesting if Australia won.
Oh, speaking of news, Trace, we have to let everybody know.
Yep.
What's happening at Tascard from Thursday the 12th of May.
Yes, a new clinic is starting.
Starting. It's after hours STI testing.
It is, yeah.
Rapid HIV testing.
Yep. But most importantly, get PrEP. It's a PrEP clinic.
PrEP, absolutely.
PrEP, I should say.
PrEP, yeah, that's
PrEP
right.
and PrEP, but particularly PrEP. It's a PrEP clinic. So for those, as we were talking before, PrEP is still not available via the PBS, but it is available via Australian prescription online. And the nurse practitioner who will be running the PrEP clinic and doing that other stuff around rapid HIV testing that only takes 20 minutes, and that sort of, and STI testing, all that sort of thing. She's fabulous. She's totally LGBTI friendly, non-judgmental, and we'll be able to also, if you are someone who's interested in getting PrEP, she'll be able to sort that out for you too.
Yep, and it's just one more option for somebody who doesn't want to identify themselves as somebody who's walking into 60 Collins Street, or who may not be available between the hours of 9 to 5, because I think that we're running the clinic until 6:30.
Between 4 and 6, or 4 and 6:30 maybe, and that's every Thursday evening.
In any case, jump in, make an appointment by contacting us at Tascard.
Indeed.
Great.
We'll put our details up on our Facebook page as well, but you can also just Google Tascard. It's TASCAHRD.
That's right.
And make an appointment.
So that's from the 12th of May, and something else on the 16th of May.
That's right, the 2016 International AIDS Candlelight Memorial. It happens all around the world, and Hobart will be having its own chapter on May 16th. The day is actually the 15th, I believe, but we thought it'd be better to have it on a weekday rather than the Sunday. From 5:30 p.m, only for about, it won't be a long affair, but what it's about is remembering that those that we've lost to the virus and to the AIDS epidemic. Of course, that doesn't happen very much in Australia anymore because we've got such fabulous treatments available. But once upon a time when the epidemic was first making its mark, there was no treatment, and we lost a lot of people. And certainly for particularly men in the gay community, lost a lot of friends, and they were all young men at the time. So it's I guess a sad time, but a reflective time, and an opportunity to remember the ones you've lost, and to remember, I guess, how far we've come as well. So hence it's called the International AIDS Candlelight Memorial, and it's at 5:30 p.m. May 16, Monday, on Parliament House steps.
Great.
You can come and light a candle, and we've got a couple of guest speakers. Yeah.
Do people need to register? Or can just
Not at
turn
all.
up?
Just show up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll be very welcome.
We'll
I think
be
we've
there.
got some nibbles on afterwards if anyone wants to hang around and have a chat. So yeah. Women on Edge are coming up very shortly, so we better say goodbye.
All right.
And go to a final song. And oh my goodness, I haven't even got one lined up. What shall I play? I'll play Nina Cherry. Did you play that last week?
Yes, I think
did?
we did, but no problem.
All right, how about Don't Wait by Joey Graceffa?
Oh yeah, do that.
Sounds good.
Yep. Can you find
Right.
it?
You've been listening to Edge Radio Bent Air on Edge Radio 99.3 FM. It's obviously going to be a long day. And Women on Edge are coming up next. Catch you next week.
See ya.